The Hall of Judgment smelled like lavender and fear. Finn Caldwell had never understood why alien councils always chose such dramatic lighting. Purple beams cut through the darkness, making the 12 judges look like floating heads in the void. Very theatrical. Very unnecessary. Finn Caldwell of Earth, the chief judge announced, his voice echoing through the massive chamber. You stand accused of cultural contamination against the Morellian people. Finn scratched his chin. Cultural contamination. That was a new one. The Morellian ambassador, a tall creature with silver scales and 4 arms, stepped forward. Her name was Drell, and she had been glaring at Finn for the past 3 hours. Her voice dripped with hatred. This human taught our children a barbaric hand game during a diplomatic dinner. Within 1 week, every school on Morella was infected. Our traditional greeting ceremonies have been destroyed. Children now throw their hands at each other instead of performing the sacred bow. Finn remembered the dinner. He had been bored. The Morellian kids had been bored. Rock, paper, scissors seemed like a harmless solution. How was he supposed to know they would love it so much? In my defense, Finn said, scissors beats paper. That is just science. The chamber gasped. Ambassador Drell looked like she might explode. Silence, the chief judge commanded. The council has reached a verdict. For the crime of cultural contamination, Finn Caldwell is sentenced to exile on planet XR-7. The room went quiet. Even Ambassador Drell seemed surprised by the harshness. XR-7 was a Category 9 death world. The worst classification possible. Extreme temperatures. Massive predators. Toxic everything. No one survived XR-7. Finn raised his hand. Quick question. What is the weather like there? The judges stared at him. I mean, should I pack a jacket? Sunscreen? Bug spray? You will be given basic supplies, the chief judge said slowly, clearly confused by this reaction. Emergency rations for 3 days. A water purifier. A medical kit. Can I keep my tablet? For documentation purposes. The judges looked at each other. No exile had ever asked for documentation materials. Most of them screamed or begged or fainted. This human was asking about weather and tablets. Fine, the chief judge said. You may keep your tablet. Excellent. Finn smiled. Thank you for your time. Ambassador Drell watched him being led away. Something about his calm attitude bothered her deeply. He should be terrified. He should be crying. Instead, he walked out like he was leaving a boring meeting. The guards escorted Finn to the exile pod. It was small and basic, designed for one-way trips. The supplies were already loaded. 3 days of food paste, a portable water purifier, and a medkit with bandages and painkillers. Not much for surviving a death world. Finn climbed inside and pulled out his tablet. He opened a new document and typed the title, XR-7 Planetary Review, a comprehensive guide. The pod doors sealed. Through the small window, Finn watched the council station grow smaller as he was launched toward the planet below. XR-7 filled his view. Swirling green and brown clouds covered most of the surface. Lightning flashed in the upper atmosphere. It looked angry. Well, Finn said to himself, at least the view is nice. The descent was rough. The pod shook violently as it hit the atmosphere. Warning lights flashed. The temperature inside rose quickly. Finn held onto his tablet and tried not to bite his tongue as everything rattled. Then came the impact. The pod slammed into something soft, which turned out to be a muddy clearing surrounded by dense jungle. Finn's ears rang. His body ached. But he was alive. He checked himself for injuries. Some bruises. A small cut on his forehead. Nothing serious. The pod's emergency systems were beeping uselessly. He turned them off. Through the cracked viewport, Finn got his first real look at XR-7. The jungle was thick and dark, even though it was clearly daytime. Strange sounds echoed from every direction. Clicks. Growls. Something that sounded like screaming, but probably was not. Probably. Movement caught his eye. In the distance, large shapes circled between the trees. They walked on 6 legs and had armored backs. Their heads were all teeth. At least 12 of them were watching the crash site. Finn opened his tablet and began typing. Day 1. Arrival successful, if slightly uncomfortable. The landing could use some work. Current location, unknown jungle clearing. Local wildlife appears curious. We'll investigate further once they stop looking at me like dinner. He paused and looked at the creatures again. They had not moved closer, but they had not left either. Smart predators. Patient ones. First impression of XR-7. Dramatic atmosphere, excellent biodiversity, questionable hospitality. The welcoming committee seems hungry. We'll update tomorrow if I survive the night. Finn saved the document and took a deep breath. He had 3 days of food, a broken pod, and approximately zero experience with alien jungles. But he also had something the Council had not considered. He had grown up on Earth. Earth, where hurricanes destroyed cities, where volcanoes buried civilizations, where every cute animal could probably kill you if you annoyed it enough. Earth, the original Death World, classified by the same council that had just exiled him. Finn smiled and started gathering supplies from the pod. The six-legged predators watched with what might have been confusion. Their prey was not running. Their prey was not screaming. Their prey was humming a little tune and sorting through boxes. This was going to be interesting. Something tried to eat Finn before breakfast. He woke to the sound of claws scraping against the pod's metal hull. The six-legged predators from yesterday had finally worked up the courage to investigate. One of them had its face pressed against the cracked viewport, drooling on the glass. "Good morning to you too," Finn muttered. He grabbed a metal pipe from the pod's damaged frame and banged it against the wall. The noise startled the creatures. They scattered into the jungle, clicking angrily at each other. Finn watched them go and made a mental note. Loud sounds work. Outside, the twin suns of XR7 were rising. Orange light filtered through the dense canopy. The jungle was already alive with sounds. Birds that were not quite birds sang from hidden branches. Insects the size of his fist buzzed past. Something roared in the distance. Finn stepped out of the pod and stretched. His muscles ached from sleeping in a metal box, but he had survived the night. That was more than most exiles could say. First priority, water. The food paste from his supplies would last a few more days if he rationed it, but dehydration would kill him faster than any predator. He needed to find a freshwater source. The jungle did not want him to succeed. Every step revealed a new danger. Vines with thorns that snapped at movement. Flowers that sprayed clouds of yellow pollen when disturbed. Trees with bark that oozed something that burned his skin when he touched it. Finn documented everything. Note: yellow flowers are hostile. Avoid at all costs. The pollen causes intense sneezing and possible blindness. We'll test further if I find protective gear. He learned quickly. Watch where you step. Never touch anything without testing it first. Move slowly and observe before acting. The jungle was not evil. It was just indifferent. Everything here was fighting to survive, including him. After 2 hours of careful walking, Finn found a stream. The water had a slight purple tint, which was concerning, but his purifier should handle it. He filled his containers and added some improvised charcoal filtering just to be safe. The six-legged predators found him again near the stream. 5 of them this time, approaching from different angles. Classic pack hunting behavior. They clicked and whistled at each other, coordinating. Finn stood up slowly. He did not run. Running was what prey did, and he was not going to play that game. The lead predator moved closer. It was bigger than the others, probably the alpha. Its armored hide was scarred from old fights. It growled low in its throat. Finn looked it directly in the eyes. He did not blink. He did not move. He just stared. Seconds passed. The alpha growled again, but it sounded uncertain now. This was not how prey behaved. Prey ran. Prey screamed. Prey made itself easy to catch. This prey just stood there like it was bored. The alpha broke eye contact first. It turned and walked away, clicking at the others to follow. The pack disappeared into the jungle, leaving Finn alone by the stream. Interesting, Finn said, typing on his tablet. Local predators appear to be ambush hunters. They expect prey to flee. Standing your ground confuses them. Possible survival strategy: do not act like food. He spent the rest of the day building a shelter. The pod was damaged, but not useless. He dragged pieces of it to higher ground, away from the stream where predators might come to drink. Using fallen branches and large leaves, he created a basic structure. Not comfortable, but defensible. That evening, Finn sat outside his shelter and ate his first meal of food paste. It tasted like sadness and cardboard, but it had calories. Scales, a small feathered lizard he had noticed following him since morning, watched from a nearby rock. "Want some?" Finn asked, holding out a bit of paste. The creature tilted its head, then scurried away. Fair enough. Even alien lizards had standards. Finn opened his tablet and began his first formal review entry. Day 1 on XR7. Accommodations, rustic. The local wildlife has questionable hospitality, and the plant life seems personally offended by my presence. Would not recommend for family vacations. 3 stars for the scenic views. He paused and looked at the jungle around him. Lightning bugs that were not quite lightning bugs began to glow in the darkness. The twin moons rose, casting silver light through the canopy. Despite everything, it was beautiful. Addendum: the night sky is actually quite nice. Upgrading to 3.5 stars. Before sleeping, Finn explored beyond his shelter and found something that killed his good mood. In a ravine not far from his camp, he discovered bones. Human bones. And not just one set. He counted at least 15 skeletons scattered among rusted equipment and torn fabric. Previous exiles. People who had been sent here to die, just like him. Some had survived days. Some maybe weeks. None had made it out. Finn stared at the bones for a long time. Then he took out his tablet and added a new section to his review. Previous visitors did not enjoy their stay. Will work to improve my chances of a positive outcome. He returned to his shelter with new determination. Tomorrow, he would start building something real. Something permanent. He was not going to end up in that ravine. 2 months changed everything. Finn sat on the porch of his elevated shelter, watching the sunrise through the jungle canopy. The structure beneath him was solid now, built from salvaged pod metal and strong local wood. It sat 3 meters off the ground, connected to neighboring trees by rope bridges. Safe from floods. Safe from most predators. Home. The 6-legged creatures he had named snappers no longer came near his territory. They had learned. After several failed hunting attempts and one very embarrassing incident involving a pit trap, they had decided this particular human was more trouble than he was worth. Scales sat beside Finn, chirping softly. The little feathered lizard had become a permanent resident weeks ago. It started with scraps of food, then graduated to sleeping near the fire, then evolved into following Finn everywhere he went. They had an understanding now. Scales warned Finn about approaching dangers. Finn provided shelter and food. Simple partnership. Beautiful morning, Finn said to his companion. Perfect weather for documentation. He pulled out his tablet, now covered in protective wrapping made from dried leaves. The device had survived remarkably well, though the battery situation was becoming interesting. Finn had built a basic solar charger from the pod's damaged systems. It worked most days. Month 2 review update. The accommodations have improved significantly since last entry. I have running water, a reliable food supply, and excellent company. Scales brings me interesting rocks now. Either it thinks I am pathetic and need help, or this is some kind of lizard-bird courtship. Either way, I am flattered. Life on XR7 had developed a rhythm. Mornings were for gathering food and checking traps. Afternoons were for building and improving the settlement. Evenings were for documentation and planning. Finn had mapped everything within a 3-kilometer radius. He knew every dangerous plant, every predator territory, every safe water source. The jungle that had tried to kill him was now working for him. The acidic pollen from the yellow flowers made excellent cleaning solution. The toxic bark from certain trees kept insects away when burned. The thorn vines could be woven into rope that was stronger than anything he could have made on Earth. Note to future visitors, Finn typed. Everything here wants to kill you. This is fine. Everything also has a use if you figure it out. The trick is surviving long enough to learn. Big Beautiful changed the game. Finn first encountered the creature during week 3. 20 meters long, with a body like a centipede crossed with a crocodile. It was the largest predator he had ever seen. It moved through the jungle like a living earthquake, knocking down trees and sending every other creature running. Smart exiles would have fled. Finn watched. He observed Big Beautiful for days, learning its patterns. It followed a regular route through its territory, hunting anything that moved too slowly. But it was predictable, avoidable. Finn adjusted his own movements to stay out of its path. Then came the drought. Water levels dropped across the jungle. The stream near Finn's camp became a trickle, and Big Beautiful came looking for what remained. Finn was gathering water when he heard it coming. The ground shook. Trees cracked. He looked up to see the massive predator emerging from the jungle, its hundreds of legs carrying it toward his position. Running would trigger its hunting instinct. Fighting was suicide. Finn did the only thing that made sense, that he walked toward it. Big Beautiful stopped. This was not prey behavior. Prey ran. Prey hid. Prey did not walk calmly towards certain death. Finn pointed toward a hidden spring he had discovered weeks ago, a source he had been saving for emergencies. Water is that way. Follow me. The creature did not understand human words, but it understood direction. It understood that this small, strange animal was not afraid. And when Finn started walking, curiosity overcame hunger. He led Big Beautiful to the spring. The creature drank for almost an hour while Finn sat nearby, documenting everything. When it finished, it looked at him with those massive, ancient eyes. Then it left without attacking. From that day forward, Big Beautiful's patrol route shifted. It now circled around Finn's territory, keeping other major predators away. Finn had accidentally acquired the most dangerous bodyguard on the planet. Relationship status with local apex predator. Complicated but positive. It has not eaten me yet, which I consider a win. The monitoring station was an accident. Finn found it while exploring new territory, a small automated structure hidden in a rock formation. Council technology, cameras, and recording equipment all pointed at the jungle.it was designed to document exiled deaths. Somewhere in the Galactic archives, there were recordings of 15 humans dying on XR7. Entertainment for bureaucrats. Proof that the punishment worked. Finn waved at the cameras. Then he went back to his day. That evening, sitting by his fire with Scales, he added a final note to his monthly review. Month 2 complete. Current rating, 4 stars. The locals are warming up to me. The scenery is excellent. The only downside is the distinct feeling that someone is watching. But honestly, after 2 months alone, I will take any audience I can get. He did not know that his audience was about to get much larger. 3 months on XR7, and Finn had built a village.it started small. 1 shelter became 2. 2 became 4. He added a workshop for building tools, a storage building for preserved food, an observation tower for watching the jungle, rain catch systems for clean water, a small garden where he grew the edible purple tubers he had discovered. There was no one else to live in these buildings. Finn knew that, but building them felt right. It felt human. His ancestors had looked at hostile wilderness and said, I could put a house there. He was just continuing the tradition. Scales had been joined by other creatures. A pair of glowing insects Finn called glowbugs now lived in his main shelter, providing light at night. A turtle-like herbivore grazed near his garden, and its presence seemed to scare away smaller pests. Even the snappers had changed their behavior, now hunting around his perimeter rather than testing his defenses. Month 3 review. Finn spoke while typing. I have invented 17 new recipes using local ingredients. The purple tubers are excellent when roasted. The river eel meat is surprisingly tender. I have also created what I am calling jungle tea, which tastes terrible but keeps me awake. Current rating, 4.5 stars. Would recommend for experienced adventurers seeking solitude and personal growth. His tablet beeped. The long-range scanner he had salvaged from the pod was detecting something entering the atmosphere, a ship. Finn watched the blip descend toward the planet's surface. It was not heading for his location, but it was close. Maybe 2 kilometers away. His first visitors in 3 months that he should have been excited. He should have been desperate to make contact, to signal for rescue, to escape this deadly world. Instead, Finn started cleaning. Scales, we have company coming. Help me tidy up. The feathered lizard tilted its head in confusion. Finn was already sweeping the porch. He picked fresh fruit from his garden. He put water on to boil for tea. He straightened his documentation, organizing 3 months of notes into a proper presentation. If someone was coming, they were going to see that Finn Caldwell had not just survived, that he had thrived. The visitors arrived the next morning. Finn heard them before he saw them, crashing through the jungle, screaming at every shadow, firing weapons at anything that moved. They were making enough noise to attract every predator within 10 kilometers. 3 figures stumbled into his clearing. They wore heavy environmental suits, covered in mud and plant residue. One was limping. Another had a cracked faceplate. The leader stopped dead when she saw the settlement, Ambassador Drell, the Morellian who had demanded his exile. Good morning, Finn said cheerfully from his porch. Would you like some tea? Drell stared at him. Her silver scales had gone pale with shock. Her 4 hands hung limp at her sides. She looked like someone watching a ghost eat breakfast. This is impossible, she whispered. The tea? It is actually quite easy. You just boil the leaves and you should be dead. Drell's voice cracked. Everyone dies here. Everyone. Finn shrugged. I found it quite pleasant, actually. Here, let me show you around. The tour broke something in Drell's mind. Each new building, each survival technique, each friendly creature that approached Finn without fear made her angrier and more confused. This was not how Exile worked. Exiles suffered. Exiles died. They did not build gardens and make friends with the local wildlife. The two security officers were no better. They flinched at every sound. They jumped at every shadow. One of them actually screamed when Scales walked past. "What is that thing?" he demanded. "That is Scales. He is my friend. Do not worry, he only bites strangers." Finn paused. "That was a joke. He does not bite at all. Unless you have food. Then he might nibble." The officer did not laugh. Drell finally found her voice. "This is a mockery. You have turned a sacred punishment into a vacation." "I prefer the term survival experience," Finn replied. "And speaking of that, I have been working on something I would like to share with the council." He pulled out his tablet and handed it to her. On the screen was his complete documentation: 3 months of survival guides, ecological surveys, recipes, danger ratings, and detailed reviews. "I call it the XR7 Comprehensive Visitor Guide," Finn said. "I think future exiles would benefit from this information, assuming the council keeps sending people here." Drell scrolled through the document. Her hands were shaking. Page after page of cheerful, practical advice on how to not die on a death world, written by a human who treated the experience like a slightly challenging camping trip. "You cannot do this," she said. "I already did. Would you like a copy?" Drell threw the tablet on the ground. Finn picked it up calmly and checked for damage. "Still working. Good. I am invoking Emergency Protocol 7, Drell announced. "You are being extracted for reassessment. The council will decide what to do with you." "Wonderful," Finn said. "Can I bring Scales? He gets anxious when I am gone too long." Drell did not answer. She was already calling for extraction, her voice tight with barely controlled rage. Finn returned to his porch and sat down. He had expected something like this. The council would not let him just live here peacefully, writing reviews and making friends with apex predators. They needed their punishment to mean something. "Do not worry," he told Scales. "This might actually be fun." The extraction ship arrived an hour later. Finn boarded calmly, carrying his tablet and his feathered lizard companion. Ambassador Drell watched him go with murder in her eyes. She had wanted him to die screaming. Instead, he was leaving with a 4.5-star review. This was not over. The Hall of Judgment was packed. Finn had expected a quiet hearing. Maybe a few judges, some paperwork, a quick decision about his fate. Instead, he walked into a chamber filled with hundreds of observers. Representatives from dozens of species packed the viewing galleries. Floating camera drones circled overhead. Holographic displays broadcast the proceedings across the galaxy. He had become famous. "The human survived," whispered a blue-skinned delegate to his neighbor. 3 months on XR7. "No one has ever lasted more than 3 weeks. I heard he made friends with the apex predator. I heard he wrote tourism reviews." Finn walked to the center of the chamber, Scales perched on his shoulder. The little creature looked around with curious eyes, completely unbothered by the attention. They made quite a pair, the exile who refused to die and his feathered lizard companion. Ambassador Drell stood at the prosecution podium. She had recovered from her shock on XR7, replacing it with cold, calculated fury. Behind her, 2 Morellian assistants held documents and evidence files. The chief judge called for order. The chamber fell silent. "Finn Caldwell of Earth," the judge began. "You have been brought before this council to face additional charges. Ambassador Drell, please present your case." Drell stepped forward, her silver scales gleaming under the purple lights. "The human has committed crimes against council justice. First, making mockery of the exile system. Second, unauthorized domestication of dangerous fauna. Third, publishing inflammatory content about council penal procedures." She pointed at Finn with 2 of her 4 hands. "This creature has turned sacred punishment into entertainment. He wrote reviews. He rated our death world like a vacation resort. He has embarrassed the council before the entire galaxy." Finn raised his hand. "Quick question. Is it illegal to not die?" The chamber murmured. Several observers actually laughed. "This is not funny," Drell snapped. "I agree completely. Exile to certain death is very serious. I took it very seriously. That is why I documented everything so carefully. Finn gestured to his tablet. May I present my evidence? The chief judge hesitated, then nodded. You may speak. Finn walked to the central display and connected his tablet. Holographic images filled the chamber. Photos of XR7's jungle. Diagrams of his settlement. Videos of the local wildlife. 3 months of survival compressed into a presentation. XR7 is classified as a Category 9 death world, Finn said. Extreme temperatures, aggressive predators, toxic plant life. The council has sent dozens of beings there to die. I found the remains of 15 of them. He showed images of the bone-filled ravine. The chamber went quiet. But here is the interesting thing. XR7 is not uniquely deadly. It is actually quite similar to my home planet. The display changed to show Earth. Hurricanes, volcanoes, lions and sharks and venomous snakes. Earth is also classified as a death world by this council. Every human grows up learning to survive in an environment that wants to kill them. We are bitten by insects and stung by plants from childhood. We swim in oceans full of predators. We build cities in places where the ground shakes and the sky burns. Finn smiled. XR7 was not punishment for me. It was just Tuesday with different scenery. Ambassador Drell interrupted. This proves nothing. The human got lucky. Luck is part of it, Finn agreed. But so is adaptation. Observation. Patience. I learned how the jungle worked. I respected its dangers. I found ways to cooperate instead of fighting everything. He pulled up his final review. The words floated in holographic display for everyone to see. XR7 Planetary Review. Overall rating, 4.5 stars. Pros, excellent biodiversity, stunning natural beauty, rewarding survival experience. Cons, initial hospitality needs improvement, lack of amenities. Would I come back? Absolutely. Would I recommend it to the council members who sent me here? Only if they want to reconsider what counts as punishment. The chamber erupted. Delegates argued with each other. Camera drones zoomed in on reactions. Ambassador Drell looked like she might faint from anger. Order, the chief judge shouted. Order in the chamber. Slowly, the noise died down. The judge leaned forward, studying Finn with ancient eyes. You survived a death world, and your response is to write a positive review. Mostly positive, Finn corrected. I did mention the hospitality issues. This is unprecedented. The exile system exists to demonstrate consequences. You have demonstrated that humans find consequences optional. Finn shrugged. I cannot speak for all humans. But we do tend to be stubborn about dying. It is kind of our thing. The chief judge turned to Ambassador Drell. What punishment do you propose for these new charges? Drell's eyes glittered. Another exile. A worse planet. Something even a human cannot survive. With respect, Finn said, you thought that about the last one. The chamber murmured again. The chief judge held up a hand for silence. The council will deliberate. Remove the human to a holding cell until we reach a verdict. Guards approached Finn. He went willingly, scales still riding on his shoulder. As he passed Ambassador Drell, he paused. For what it is worth, he said quietly, rock, paper, scissors really is a fun game. You should try it sometime. Drell said nothing, but her 4 hands clenched into fists. The cell was comfortable enough. Finn sat on the bench and scratched Scales under the chin. Through the small window, he could see ships coming and going from the station. Somewhere out there, his review was spreading across the galaxy. Whatever happens next, he told his companion, I think we made an impression. Scales chirped in agreement. The verdict took 3 days. Finn spent the time in his cell, playing with Scales and thinking about what came next. The guards brought him food and water but refused to answer questions about the deliberations. Apparently, his case had become complicated. On the 4th morning, they brought him back to the Hall of Judgment. The chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the galaxy about the human who reviewed his death sentence. Species who had never cared about council proceedings were now watching with intense interest. Finn noticed delegates he did not recognize taking notes. The chief judge called for order. It took longer this time. The council has reached a decision regarding Finn Caldwell, the judge announced. This was not a simple matter. The charges presented by Ambassador Drell are technically valid. The human did mock council justice. He did domesticate dangerous creatures. He did publish content that questions our exile system. Drell smiled. Finally, justice. However, the judge continued, We must also consider the broader implications of this case. The smile faded. Finn Caldwell did not break any laws during his exile. He survived using his own skills. He documented his experience for the benefit of others. He treated the local wildlife with respect rather than violence. Most importantly, he exposed a flaw in our punishment system. The judge gestured to a display showing statistics. Since his review became public, we have received over 50,000 requests for information about Deathworld exile. Tourism companies are asking about organized expeditions. Several species are now questioning whether exile is punishment at all or simply free adventure for certain beings. This is exactly why he must be punished further, Drell argued. He has undermined everything the Council stands for. Has he? Or has he simply shown us what we refuse to see? The chief judge leaned back. Earth is classified as a death world. Humans evolved in conditions that would kill most galactic species. We knew this. We chose to ignore it when selecting Finn Caldwell's punishment. The failure here is not his survival. The failure is our assumption that every species experiences danger the same way. Finn raised his hand. May I speak? The judge nodded. I do not want to cause problems for the Council, Finn said. I was a diplomat before all this. I believe in cooperation between species. I taught those Morellian children rock, paper, scissors because I wanted them to have fun, not because I wanted to destroy their culture. He looked at Ambassador Drell. I understand that traditions matter. I am sorry if my actions caused harm. But I am not sorry for surviving. And I am not sorry for documenting what I learned. Knowledge should be shared. The chamber was silent. Even Drell seemed momentarily uncertain. The Council has decided, the chief judge announced. Finn Caldwell is cleared of all charges related to his exile. His survival guide will be added to official Council archives as a resource for future reference. He will be released and returned to human space. Cheers erupted from parts of the chamber. Finn allowed himself a small smile. However, the judge added, at Ambassador Drell's insistence, Finn Caldwell is banned from Morellian space for 50 years. This is a compromise we have agreed upon. Finn nodded. 50 years was nothing. He could live with that. Additionally, the Council will review the exile system entirely. If one human can turn a Category 9 death world into a positive experience, perhaps our approach to punishment needs reconsideration. The gavel came down. The case was closed. Ambassador Drell left the chamber without speaking to anyone. Her revenge had failed completely. Not only had Finn survived, but he had changed galactic policy in the process. Some defeats were too complete for words. Finn was surrounded by reporters and delegates as he tried to leave. Questions flew at him from every direction. What will you do now? Are you planning more Deathworld visits? Can humans really survive anywhere? He held up his hands for quiet. Scales chirped impatiently on his shoulder. I am going home first. I have not seen Earth in over a year. After that, well, there are a lot of death worlds in the galaxy. Somebody should review them. The crowd laughed. Finn smiled. A week later, he boarded a transport back to human space. His cabin was small but comfortable. Through the window, he watched the Council station shrink into the distance. His tablet sat on the desk, open to a new document. The title read, Deathworld Reviews, Volume 2. Scales curled up beside him, already half asleep. The little creature had adapted to space travel remarkably well. Another survivor. Finn began typing. Introduction. After my unexpected vacation on XR7, I have decided to continue my documentation of challenging environments. The galaxy is full of planets that most species consider deadly. I intend to visit as many as possible and provide honest, practical reviews for anyone interested. He paused, thinking about the journey ahead. New planets, new dangers, new opportunities to confuse aliens who expected him to die. My first destination is a volcanic world called Infernus 3. The Council rates it Category 8. Local temperature can reach 400 degrees in some regions. I have been told survival is impossible without heavy equipment. Finn smiled. We will see about that. The transport jumped to hyperspace. Stars stretched into lines of light. Somewhere ahead, another deadly world was waiting. And somewhere in the galaxy, Ambassador Drell was probably still angry. What do you think, Scales? Ready for another adventure? The feathered lizard opened one eye, chirped once, and went back to sleep. Finn laughed and kept writing. He had reviews to write, death worlds to survive, and a galaxy to annoy. Just another day for a human.